Welcome, everyone. We're going to get going here in just a minute. In the meantime, the chat is open. Feel free to let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know if you're going to a SailGP event this year or have been to one in the past. And we'll get started here shortly with introductions and a brief video on SailGP. Mike, when's the team headed west?
We're in LA, right? Anna and I are in LA. Jeremy's here. PK's here. Everybody kind of trickles in over the next couple of days.
Right on. I haven't checked the weather. How's everything looking for this coming weekend here?
They say it's going to rain the next couple of days. Hopefully that is gone by the time we start sailing on Friday. It never rains out here, so but hopefully it comes through quick and we have a good weekend. I just got the hiccups. Perfect timing.
Good timing on the rain. One of the 5 days a year it rains in California, and you guys get that.
Yeah.
Well, right on. Well, let's get started. Welcome aboard, folks. We've got the U.S. SailGP team with us. I'll give a brief rundown of introductions here. We'll play a short video about SailGP, and then we'll dive right in. We've got a wealth of knowledge on this panel here today, so feel free to ask any questions. If you're unfamiliar with SailGP, we're going to take it from the top and get into a little bit of tactics, strategy, and how things differ from your day-to-day boats. So first off, we've got Anna Weis, who's an Olympian grinder and trimmer with the SailGP team. She was the first full-time woman grinder and jib trimmer in SailGP. And we've got Taylor Canfield, who's a 7-time world champ sailor and driver for the U.S. SailGP team. Then we've got Mike Buckley here, who's a 2-time world champion sailor, the CEO and co-owner of the U.S. SailGP team. Behind the scenes here, we have Cam Ferreira, who is also a North U coach with us and has some past experience with the U.S. SailGP team as a strategist. And then we have our very own Kristen Berry, who is head of ASA Performance Sailing, as well as North U, to help guide the conversation here. So really excited. We have a great panel here with us tonight. Our hope is that you'll learn a little bit more in depth about the U.S. SailGP team as a whole and how the SailGP circuit works. They have some awesome events coming up, so highly encourage you to come out this weekend. They'll be in Southern California, racing out of LA, and then they're up in San Francisco the following weekend. And then later this summer here, they'll be in New York. So they've got some great U.S. stops as well as stops abroad, but we will pass it over to Kristen, who's going to kick it off with a brief video on SailGP. And then just a quick note for everyone here in attendance, please throw your questions in the Q&A section. That's separate to the chat. That way we can make sure we get them answered. And KB, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks so much, Roman. Great to have the SailGP squad on tonight. This is going to be really fun, and I've got a ton of questions queued up. But for those of you who are watching, we want to answer your questions too. So make sure you put those in the Q&A. Cam's going to do her best to answer what she can, and then she'll throw to the panel any questions that rise to the top. So keep them coming. We're going to talk about SailGP, but I think it's probably important to see what SailGP is all about. So first, let's check out this cool video.
This is SailGP.
Here we go. Everyone stay calm. New Zealand news.
Now that we're back on land, let's take a step back. I'm Lisa Darmanin, and today I'm going to guide you around the world of SailGP. SailGP is our close to shore, nation versus nation, high-speed, high-tech racing series that is truly like no other. The league started in 2018 to redefine the future of sailing. Our competition takes us all over the world, where nation versus nation compete for the title of SailGP champion. The championship is decided at the end of the season, following a year-long competition where the best of the best rack up points to reach a grand final. A final showdown where the top 3 teams go head-to-head to win the SailGP season trophy and $2 million. SailGP races take place on a standardized course designed for both speed and spectator engagement. The course features a series of marks that teams must navigate around, including the starting line, gates, and the finish line. The course consists of several legs, including upwind and downwind sections, where the teams must execute tacks and jibes, maneuver around marks placed at each end of the course. This requires teams to make strategic decisions about which side to pass through, adding a tactical element to the race. The spectacular part of what makes SailGP unique is all our teams compete in identical F50 catamarans. The F50 is a catamaran that revolutionized the sport with its foiling design, lifting the boats out of the water, minimizing drag and allowing speeds up to 60 miles per hour. These high-tech catamarans can go over 3 times the speed of the wind, with athletes on board experiencing G-forces of up to 3 Gs. To adapt to various wind and weather conditions, the F50 catamarans are equipped to sail 3 different wing sizes, as well as interchangeable daggerboards and rudders. The 3 wing sizes, 18, 24, and 29 meters, allow SailGP to optimize performance. The smallest wing is used in strong winds to maintain control. The largest wing is deployed in light winds to maximize power, and the middle wing is the all-purpose wing to cover all bases. When a boat turns, athletes must cross the boat to maintain balance and optimize speed. In maneuvers, crossing is a crucial skill. Coordination and timing are everything, with each crew member playing a vital role in ensuring the boat transitions seamlessly through the turn. To mitigate the risk involved in crossing the boat, athletes are tethered with safety harnesses, allowing them to move freely while ensuring they remain securely attached. Now, what happens when water, air, and speed meet? You witness the F50 soaring above the water. Similar to an airplane on the runway, when the F50 reaches the right speed, its hydrofoils lift the boat out of the water. But these athletes are on the limit. Fly too high or lose control, the crashes can be spectacular. Capsizing is a constant risk, with the boat potentially flipping over if there's too much power in the wing from the gusts of wind. Now, to reach top speeds, each of the 6 athletes on the F50 plays their own part. Like a finely tuned race car at full throttle, the crew on the F50 need to work in perfect harmony. The grinder is the engine and generate power to make moves. The wing trimmer is the accelerator and controls the speed around the track. The flight controller is the tires, providing the connection to the surface. The strategist is the mirrors and the sensors, giving the vision in front and behind. And lastly, the driver holds the wheel, tying everything together with steadiness and decision-making. Success on these F50s requires more than just physical strength. It's the combination of mind and body, unwavering focus, and rapid reactions that enable these athletes to push limits and achieve incredible speeds on the F50. Each role, from driver to grinder, is vital to the team's success. Without each role working together, everything would fall apart. In summary, SailGP is more than just a sailing competition. It's a dynamic and revolutionary sporting league that showcases the best of sailing talent, cutting-edge technology, and a commitment to a sustainable future. For the thrill of high-speed races to the precision of maneuvers, every moment is designed to push the limits of what's possible on the water. Get ready to experience sailing like never before.
All right, now that we've seen it, I think I'm booking my flight to LA tonight. That looks amazing. Mike, I want to go first question to you. For those who are unfamiliar with SailGP, can you just give us a quick overview of, what the league is and how it differs from other types of sailing that people may be more familiar with?
Yeah, I mean, I think Larry and Russell's experience in the America's Cup, they had a great experience in the America's Cup for a lot of years, but what it was missing was something that was always on, and fans could see from shore. And they created this thing called SailGP to bring racing closer to the fans. So there's 14 races around the world right now. There's 12 national teams. I think we had 25,000 people in grandstands in Auckland watching. A lot of the time, Taylor can drive the boat, basically between, 5 and 10 feet, right from kind of a brick wall in many of the venues. And if you wanted to, you could, throw a ball into our boat from the grandstands. Like, that's how close it is. Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it is just sailing, but it's a lot faster. It's a lot more close, and it's the best sailors in the world.
Yeah, very cool. Taylor, from your perspective, I mean, you've sailed at the highest levels of the sport. You've sailed in lots of fleet racing, lots of match racing. But from your perspective, what makes it so exciting? I mean, from your seat in the house, and then as an aficionado of sailing, as somebody who might be watching it some days too, what switches it on for you?
Yeah, I mean, the boats are just incredible machines. They go through the water so fast, or in this case, through the air so fast. Um, yeah, but I've always liked that, really quick decision making, and that kind of like seat of your pants decision making, and kind of why I got into match racing in the first place is because you're reacting to the other boat and kind of the moves, and then making a quick decision, and then your whole team having to execute that decision that's been made. So this plays kind of into that same role where it's really close to shore, short courses, 12 teams out there, and yeah, it's just I love it because it's not only fast, but it's just always on like the forefront of technology, and they're just pushing the boats harder and harder around the racetrack. This year they introduced the new T foils, which are creating the boats. Top speed has gone way up, and yeah, it's given us more variables to play with on board. So just all in all, it's a great league, and like Mike said, we're racing against the best in the world and the fastest boats in the world, and to me, that's exciting alone.
Do those foils let you push the boats harder with more stability, or are they more efficient? What's the secret sauce in the foil?
Yeah, so the change from the traditional L foil that we used to have that you saw in the videos, now we have a T foil, and yeah, the goal was to not only create a higher top speed, but also to create more stability in the boats. And yeah, we're finding at times, as we're learning to sail these boats with these new foils, that there is a increased level of stability, but at the same time, there's some slight nuances where, now we're seeing the tip of the foil breach the water more, which creates, more cavitation and air bubbles around the foils. So we are having some growing pains in ways that we're trying to figure out, how to counteract those moments of kind of that instability. So yeah, as long as we keep the boat speed up, the tip breaching the water seems to be okay. So we just got to push the boats harder.
Yeah, right height matters. Anna, you've had a ton of success both in catamarans and in monohulls. What do you think about the technology of these boats, and how do you see it affecting how racing might take place on boats that regular Joes like me might go sail on?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming from Olympic sailing and just dinghies in general, it's been quite a transition sailing, with the main sheet in your hand. And now I'm, pressing buttons to trim a sail and just relying on numbers. And so I think, yeah, the only thing that I sailed with on my laser on our NACRA was a compass. And now we have access to all this data. And I think in the beginning it was quite overwhelming, but it's really cool to use that data to your advantage and just learn from, and how can we always be improving. I think that's so exciting about this league in general is it's a shared data. So you have access to other teams. So the teams that are doing really well and performing, you can go back and watch their data and just try to learn from them. So I think it's just a constant learning, and there's so much you have access to. And so it just feels like a world, like the world's your oyster in that way. And I think that the more that we push with the data, I guess the more the performance will go up in general. And in terms of data on other boats, I'm not quite sure, but I think just taking the skills that I've learned from SailGP and taking that into other sailing, I'm sure it would probably benefit me.
It trickles down at some point. That's actually something that I was sort of impressed with. I was watching with a friend of mine who doesn't know a lot about sailing, who said this must not have anything to do with the kind of sailing that people do on the average weekend. But that's not exactly true. You still got to call shifts. You got to look up the course. You got to get to the right place. the entire North U and ASA performance model is sort of built on this pyramid where we talk about preparation as the foundation, boat handling as a big base, then you have boat speed, and finally you have strategy and tactics. So kind of open question to the three of you, where are races won and lost in SailGP? Is there one area in particular that gets an emphasis, or is it just like the kind of sailing we're doing on, at the Bacardi Cup in Miami, where you've got to balance all of those things together?
I mean, it truly is just sailing. It is no different in general than all of those things that you just said. It's just happening faster, and your mistakes are amplified exponentially. So the boat with the highest average VMG probably looks like they have the best tactics, right? Because it becomes easier. The boats that are up on the that has the best average ride height is probably the fastest and probably has the best tactics, right? If you drop off the foils, you go from going, I don't know, whatever you were doing, 20, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour to going 10, right? While everybody else is doing that other speed. So that's where you get exposed really quickly. But, just like if you hop in a J70, if you have a decent start and you have decent speed and you have decent boat handling, you're probably going to do pretty well, right? Like, so it's, you still have to do your job, like all the data that Anna was talking about. It makes it even like more important that everybody's doing their job, because there's not time to talk about things. We all wear noise canceling headphones and we talk through microphones that get keyed when we speak. So we can't have multiple people speaking at the same time. So Taylor can't just sit in the back of the boat and say, ease, trim, hike, whatever you'd say on a normal boat. You just have to do it yourself. And if you're not, somebody else is, but yeah, it's just sailing.
Yeah, I think we're seeing kind of high functioning communication coming to teams in regular boats too, where people know they have to do their role. They can't wait for the helmsperson or the driver to tell them what to do next.
Yeah, if you wait to ease the jib for your helmsman to tell you to ease the jib, somebody on another boat, the jib trimmer eased the jib on their own, right? And they gained that foot that at the windward mark is the difference between crossing the 5 boats that are on starboard or going behind them, right? I mean, that's kind of, regular sailing in a nutshell. And in SailGP, it's the same, or you just, but you can just get left behind if you're not the one easing the jib or the wing or whatever the thing is that you're trying to, do to the best of your ability.
Well, Taylor and Anna, take us on board for a second. Imagine you're on port tack. You've got great speed. You think you're going to make the cross. What's the comms loop that's going on the boat? You've got a starboard tacker coming along. Who's saying what? Who's responsible? Where does the handoff take place? How far is the distance you have to make that determination of whether you are going to cross that other boat, tack, or duck them? How does that work?
I'll let Taylor. Taylor's
Taylor.
Taylor.
I feel like Mike's the guy that has to make this decision out on the water. So no, I'll take it on. It's so challenging. Like Mike said, the speed differences are, accentuated like so drastically in this racing. So yeah, it's tough. Just like any racing though, 1 second you can be crossing, 1 second, you're not. So yeah, we have to keep an eye on it. And there does have to be, that clear communication. And as we're finding these venues getting smaller and smaller and the fleet growing, we basically have to have someone looking out for other boats all the time. So, when we're coming up on a cross, depending on if we're sailing in just kind of a normal configuration, usually the strategist will go to the center of the boat and just have to make that call. And we just have to trust him to do it. But if we're not crossing, it's a big moment. You're bearing away, the boat is accelerating 10 to 15 knots. All the sails are being eased and the controls are being eased, and then you come up around the back of the boat. The apparent wing goes like straight on the bow. All the sails have to come back in, And yeah, it's just a really high demand on not only the humans on board, but the power that we have on board. So yeah, it's a full-on moment for sure. But yeah, I think we're just getting used to the speeds and getting used to making those judgment calls. But yeah, the other thing that we have, which has been super helpful and we're getting a lot better at using, is our coach in the booth. Basically has access to the umpire, I guess, umpire system that they use to make calls around the racetrack. And what that also includes is a ghost boat out in front of your boat. I think it's a 3 to 5 second ghost boat that is kind of leading the boats around the track on this umpire application. And so our coach can then come on and be like, okay, 5 seconds, basically say, hey, you got to tack, like not crossing. And he can tell us if that boat is up to full speed and we feel comfortable that, they're not going to, close the distance. So we get a lot of information from our coaches during the racing, and that's becoming a big part of the game in SailGP as well.
Yeah, the eye in the sky. That's powerful medicine right there. Anna, Taylor was just talking about, sales going out, sales coming in. That's in your wheelhouse. That's a big part of your department, right? Not only are you the jib trimmer, but you're the horsepower on the boat as the grinder. I don't think that, there are plenty of sailors watching this that don't exactly know what a grinder is or what she does or how rare it is that she's doing it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so basically my role, I'm trimming the jib, like you said, and grinding as well. So it's a very physical role. There's 2 grinders on board, one facing backwards, one facing forwards. I'm the one that faces forward, so I can see the jib. But basically what the grinding does is it provides power to the winch, so the wing trimmer can trim and ease the wing, which is obviously really important when sailing. But yeah, I mean, I think, when I first started in this role, it was learning, how the buttons were gonna do everything through the jib, how the jib affects the wing. There's a big learning curve, I think, when I first started, but it's been really fun, and I'm the only woman in the league to be in this role, so it's also been really rewarding, and just I've been pushing myself really hard just to kind of prove that it's possible, because it is a male dominated role. And so Mike called me and gave me the opportunity, and so I kind of took it head on, and it's been really fun and really rewarding.
Yeah, I was doing some research for this chat, and I saw you in a piece where you were talking about how many watts you were generating by turning the handles. I mean, that sounds like what we talk about in bicycle racing, right? That there's a watt meter on there, and so you think about this pumping with the legs, but you're moving the handles with your arm. And are you then directly linked to one of the sails or both of the sails through some form of a transmission, or are you pumping up a reserve of hydraulic fluid? Where is all that energy that you're putting through the handles going?
That's going to solely the winch that the wing is on. Everything else is battery powered on the boat. So all the buttons that I push with my foot pedals. So I have 2 foot pedals for trimming on and off, and then I also have my lead functions in a button panel and my Cunningham buttons in the same function panel, like on the side. So oftentimes, like if I'm just like doing one arm, I'm adjusting something in my button panel. So it's kind of like hitting your head and rubbing your belly.
The grinders provide on-demand power for the wing trimmer.
Yeah.
There's no reservoir or anything like that. It's just a direct link to that winch.
Human output for it. Yeah.
So when Taylor calls for the tacking duel, it's time to go to work.
Yeah, there's not really any tacking duels in SailGP. But
yeah, definitely not like the 18 tack beats at the Congressional Cup and the old school match racing. That's for sure.
Right. Well, actually, let's talk about that for a minute, because the courses are sort of unique. It's not what you might see on a Wednesday night beer can race. It's not what somebody might see at their One Design Windward Leeward style race course. So who can talk a little bit about what the course is all about and why it's designed the way it is? It's got a really exciting start where, if you're new to the sport, you're sure they're all going to crash into each other. And then it's got a wild finish line, kind of a short sprint leg there too. So who can talk a little bit about the courses?
Yeah, I can take it on. Looks like Mike's muted there, so I'll take it over.
Taylor's a
Um,
first expert.
yeah, no. Been sailing this kind of course for quite a few years though. We I raced in another catamaran class called the M32s, which also we raced on the World Match Racing Tour in a similar format. So, but yeah, like you said, it's a reaching start, and usually defined by a super small starting box. So we have these boundaries that we can see on our screen that aren't obviously displayed on the water, but yeah, our we're forced to stay within these boundaries. So everything is happening super last minute to start. You're entering with a anywhere between like a minute 45 and a minute to go, kind of like your final tack in a normal race, right? You're looking for your hole and trying to figure out where's the line going to open up. But yeah, as soon as that start gun goes off, you're at your max speed reaching angle. And oftentimes now we're seeing over 50 knots on the reach with the new T foils, and then into a just full hair on fire, bear away, basically aiming straight at a boundary within 12 to 25 seconds. And that's probably the most important maneuver of the race. It's like coming into that first boundary around the reach mark and just nailing that first jibe. So yeah, it's full on, and then it's followed by 2 laps around the track, windward laps, and then usually some sort of reach to the finish. But yeah, like Mike said earlier on, it's you get off the line in good shape, and you have that base foundation that you were talking about, that boat speed and the boat handling. You're usually in pretty good shape.
So, Mike, I'm going to throw to you for a couple here. As CEO of this program, do you think SailGP is helping grow sailing in a broader sense? Like, what do you think the trickle-down effect is?
Yeah, 100%. There's 3 of our races last season had almost 2 million viewers live on CBS. That hasn't happened since the 80s, since the Dennis Conner days. It's definitely opening up to new audiences that come down and, check out what we're doing. I think something like 90% of those fans are non-sailors, and I think there's like an interesting, battle between the traditionalists that don't want to see sailing change, and the people that have, sort of said, hey, listen, if sailing doesn't change, I'm not sure it's going to be here in 20 years, right? And sailing in 20 years isn't going to be SailGP for everybody, and that's not. But at some stage, people stopped using their landlines and started using these things, right? And I think it's no different, and the trickle down, hits the grassroots eventually. And I think the thing that gets me really excited is because what we do is different, it's exciting, it's fast, it's dangerous, it's a conversation starter. Some kid that's never sailed before gets to see it on someone's Instagram or something, and they get to say, hey, how do I get into this? Right? Oh, well, you start out by sailing an Opti or a whatever, a J70 or anything. So yeah, I think it is having an impact, and it's not going to be easy to get it to where we want to get it to, but it's definitely there for the taking.
So what's next for the USA team? You've got 2 US based events. How what are your goals, and how can we follow and support?
Yeah, it's the first double header in SailGP history, which is pretty exciting. Back-to-back races, LA then San Francisco. I think I've had the privilege of sitting on a lot of these like emerging sports panels and things like that, these sports conferences, and I've got to listen to people from the WNBA and these other different emerging leagues that are all having their moments. And when everybody asks the question that you just asked, the general theme is show up, right? And I think that's something that is massively helpful for us, right? Follow us on Instagram, put a comment, come to a race, buy a ticket, buy a shirt. Not that that's gonna like cause direct revenue. That's not the ask, but it's going to put more eyeballs, and more eyeballs starts to grow exponentially, and that's when that's when the sponsors come, and when the sponsors come, it trickles down to the grassroots, right? And sponsors start putting on youth clinics and community sailing programs and all of this stuff that builds our sport. So the biggest ask is show up, right? And easier said than done, but I think we have a worthy story. We want to put American sailing back on the map, on the international level, right? It's the perception is that there's not the talent that there needs to be. The reality is that the talent hasn't been given the opportunity for the last 20 years. And so that's what we're trying to do. And it's not going to be easy, and we're not going to win tomorrow, but we might podium. We've shown that we've podiumed twice. But come with us on this ride, and hopefully, hopefully it excites you, and we're going to work our butts off to get to a place where we're all proud to be.
Well, it's the most viewable sailing out there. I mean, it is one, you can watch it on so many different platforms. It's fun to watch. And in person, there's nothing quite like it. I went to the New York City event and was just blown away. There's so much going on, and the energy around it. You don't have to be into sailing to think that SailGP is as cool as it gets. You mentioned the initiative trying to put. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The energy we had in Auckland was nothing like none of us have ever seen anything like that. I mean, it was truly remarkable to have 25,000 people ticketed in grandstands, and every restaurant, all the waterfront bars, like, were just going off. It was like the Super Bowl was going on, right? And I think if we could just get a fraction of that going here in the US and in Europe and things like that, I mean, it would just be so epic.
Absolutely. You mentioned some initiatives, beyond getting more eyes on sailing. SailGP has a few missions beyond just sailing itself. Can you talk a little bit about those? Some of the environmental work that the organizations are working on?
Yeah, listen, we have two purpose partners: Hudson River Community Sailing, which is a community sailing program in New York City that puts a couple hundred New York City public school kids through a sailing program. They get a math, a science, and a phys ed credit, through the public school system. I went and spoke to the kids a few weeks ago. Like, these are just kids that for most of them have never even seen a sailboat, right? And they get to go after school and be part of a community, and sailing is sort of the excuse to get a bunch of kids together, organized, to learn about math, science, and phys ed, right? Rise is a nonprofit that Stephen Ross founded, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, to use sport to end racism, right? And they're a great partner of ours. Anna here is pushing the limits of going up against some of the strongest men in our sport, right? And like, you started this, like, there aren't a lot of women doing what she's doing. There's one. And I think, that's something that we're really proud of. Tommy Hilfiger, our partners, put Anna front and center all over their campaigns for the last week on International Women's Day, because they're inspired with what she's doing, as are we. So yeah, I think when the mission is bigger than yourself, it makes the tough days a lot easier. But yeah, we want to make sailing for everybody, right? Like, how many people have never seen the ocean in the world? An enormous amount. Like, if you just break it down to that, if we can be, some cool factor that helps people go and see the ocean, like, massive win, right? And yeah, so that's one of our big initiatives.
Quality work. Cam, I want to throw over to you. It looks like you've been busy over in the Q&A. Maybe come off mute for a second and share with us some questions that some of our viewers have come up with.
Yeah, no, the chat's been great. I have a good question for Anna, from Emily. She asked, how do you get feedback from the boat? She comes from sailing dinghies. How does she feel things when sail trim's a bit different, you know, like on a SailGP boat, because you can't necessarily feel the sheet in the same way while you're grinding. So can you talk a bit about that transition to a bigger boat and learnings you've had?
Yeah. Hi, Emily. So basically when I transitioned into sailing with foot pedals rather than a main sheet in my hand, I think a lot of it is just communication with Taylor and Jeremy on what feels good. And so I have my numbers on our wing screen. And so I'll always refer back to them. So once we kind of figure out a good range of where my sheet should be and where my lead should be, I'll ask, Taylor, how does this feel on the helm? Jeremy, how does it feel on the wing? And then kind of adjust from there. And then you kind of find your range, and then you might have to adjust here and there, but it is all numbers based. So you do have that to refer back to in terms of, where you are in your range. It is definitely a weird feeling not having a sheet in your hand, because I've always been a very field-based sailor. And so I think it's been like a pretty big transition coming into sailing numbers, but I think it's like with anything, you pick up a new skill, and at first you don't really like it, but then once you do it more and more, you're like, oh, I don't know how I would do it without. And truthfully, it's really, I don't think we can sail without the numbers. Like you can, but it's not ideal because visually it's quite hard to see. So you are relying on your numbers a lot.
Cammy,
Awesome.
I don't know.
Ooh, sorry, KB. I think I lost you for a second there. Awesome. And then I had another question. I guess for Mike, where do you envision SailGP to be in 5 years as the league is growing so rapidly?
I'd say in 5 years, you'll see 22 races, 23 races around the world. You'll see larger grandstands. Maybe you'll have 12 private teams, maybe more. Each team will have title sponsors, and but yeah, I think for the most part, you'll just see more events. Closer to Formula One season. It'll be a little bit more compressed, but yeah, more races.
Awesome. And then I guess one more, does the team all train together? It seems like a couple of people are wondering if you guys all train together. I know you guys train in the gym a lot, and that's a huge component. If you could elaborate on that, that'd be great.
You want to take training?
Yeah, I can take it. Unless Taylor, you want to take it? I'll take it. Yeah, so all of us kind of live in different parts of the country, and I think for each of our individual roles, we have different priorities, I guess. So obviously my role is very physical, so I do spend a lot of time in the gym. I think that it is interesting, an interesting dynamic living in different parts of the country, and we kind of all go live our separate lives and then come back and race this F50 together for 3 days, because we basically have Friday practice racing and then we race on Saturday, Sunday. So it's very limited training time. But we do have team calls, we check in, and I think there's lots of ways to stay connected, even if we're not, with each other. And I think a big thing is just trust that we're all kind of doing our role to the best of our ability when we're not together. But yeah, it is something super unique about this kind of racing. But I think there's benefits to it too.
Awesome. And then one more, what motivates each of you guys to perform at the highest level, even on the hardest days?
I'd say going out and representing our country, and just knowing that everyone around me is, willing to work as hard as I am.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah, I said this to the team the other day, and I kind of stole this from Kobe Bryant, but when you love what you do, it's not work. So I think that's something that we all share. We love what we do, and even on the days it didn't go the way that we thought it was going to go in our head, we still crave more, and we all share a relentless pursuit to put America back at the top of the global sailing scene. So back to, you know, it being a bigger goal than a personal goal.
I would say for
Great
me,
question. Yeah,
is-
great question. Oh, sorry, Anna, didn't mean to cut you off.
oh no, it's okay. I would say for me, it's just my love for the sport, and I tell myself this every day, but I think I have the coolest job in the world, and I know there are a lot of people who would love to be doing what we're doing here, and Mike said it earlier, but kind of going back to it's bigger than us, and I didn't really have that many role models to look up to when I was younger, especially women in the sport, and so kind of, you know, I go back to my mission and what I'm trying to do that's bigger than me, and hopefully inspire young girls to kind of pursue, if it's a career in sailing or in sport in general, just to not give up, because if you can see it, you can believe it. So I think that's kind of what I ground myself to when I'm having a tough day, is that it is bigger than me, and you know, this is what I'm doing it for.
Great questions, Cam. Thank you very much for that. And Roman, you may want to hop back on here. This has been a great panel discussion. Thank you for being on, and what a great exciting thing that you have going on here. Can't wait to watch you have success in LA and San Francisco, and look forward to supporting Team USA SailGP in the future.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having us.
Taylor,
you.
Mike, Anna, thank you very much for taking time out of your evening here. Best of luck this coming weekend as well in San Fran and the rest of the season. Once again, folks, they'll be in LA this week, San Francisco the next, and then New York, I believe, is it June, Mike?
Yeah, the first week of June.
Right
Yeah,
on.
June 7 and 8.
Awesome. Well, folks, you can grab a discount on SailGP tickets in your ASA membership. We've sent out some email blasts there. We will be putting this recording out on our YouTube, as well as sending it out to our email list. So thanks everyone who tuned in tonight, and good luck this weekend.
I'll throw one other thing if you haven't hung up yet. We're launching a new website and app tomorrow. You can follow along with some kind of internal updates, and we're going to be doing some cool stuff like that, you know, you won't have access to anywhere else, like onboard footage, pre-race and things like that. So would love for you to download it tomorrow once it goes live sometime in the afternoon.
And what, yeah,
it?
where do they find it, and what is the app or website called?
That's a great question. It's in the app. It'll be in the app store.
US,
Yeah.
you just type in US SailGP.
Yeah.
Okay, right on.
It's like a Liberty Marine logo or little icon.
Yeah, it'll be all over our social media tomorrow. So, yeah, would appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to checking that out. Thanks again for joining us this evening, Cam and KB. Thanks for helping guide the conversation there, and hope everyone can make it out to one of these events this year. Have a good night, everyone.
Guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.